Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Sir Eisenstein, Captain of the Iron Hands. Today, we'll be looking into the May's meta report and the balance changes that came with it. Now, normally what happens is, when the developers release a meta report, they usually give it a couple of days before releasing a balance change. However, this time, the changes and the report came on the same day. Bear in mind though, we didn't really had any significant balance changes in the last 2 to 3 months. It's especially on the High Terra, it's been the same warlord, same style decks, usually the knights and your desperate defenses. This video is going to be a little bit different than most of the meta report videos I do and plan to do, mainly because majority of the warlords and the decks that in the list here, they will be irrelevant purely because of these new balance changes. I will be talking side by side with the new warlords, the win rates and the balance changes that came with it as well. So starting off at number 1 in High Terra was the Sisters of Silence's new legendary warlord Kroll. It's 61% win rate and the highest use rate in the entire meta, up close to 15%. Now bear in mind, this win rate doesn't also include the mirror matches, and playing in the High Terra, I can confirm that most people were playing Kroll non-stop. My personal win rate was a little bit close to 70%, and it was fairly easy warlord to play with. Now there's been a nerf to it. You can see on the right side of the screen that now it's battle honor passive. Instead of being +2 to +1 bonus, it's now +1 to +1. But this doesn't really changes anything. It's a minor nerf, but it's not necessarily making it any weaker. It's still going to be a dominant warlord. And in terms of a deck, I'm not really going to show a deck to crawl. Mainly because it's fairly simple to play. Just throw a bunch of Sisters of Silence troops, and majority of them are very good. You can throw a couple of Imperial Army ones to go with it as well, and that's it. Their legendaries are very good, but you don't even need them to make a fairly effective deck with her. And all you need is just card draws and cheap troops and being a little bit patient against some aggressive opponents, and that's it. It's fairly easy warlord to play. However though, I don't think she was the most sort of dominant one. In the report, she sure seems like it, but Iota, the latest warlord released by Agents of the Sigillite, she was the one that was actually dominating in the last few days of the ladder. Now they also receive a nerf, and the main nerf to them is the Keeler, which was giving frontline to your warlord. Now this is no longer the case. It only gives frontline to troops, so you don't have a permanent frontline warlord standing there and messing up everything. But this warlord was the main dominant one in the last few days, and the reason why it picked up slowly was, first of all, most of the people already spend their gold on either the Imperial Fists or the Sisters of Silence, and this was a lot trickier to play in terms of how to use the warlord's ability, in terms of how to basically play the entire deck. It was a lot more sort of a combo based. Now I don't have most of the cards necessary playing the Agents of Sigillite, unfortunately, so I actually don't have a deck for them as well. I will show one in the end of the video that I was messing around, but it's not really a competitive deck at the moment. Now Perturabo is always a dominant warlord. It's fairly fast with the siege ability and the 5 energy Contrador legendary card. There's no surprises there as well. And other than that, the main dominant one was the Knights as always, and there's no nerfs to them. There's no changes to Knights, which is a bit frustrating, because all the other the playstyles, all the other main dominant styles and warlords or decks, they got nerfed, while Knights, being one of the most dominant ones, are still in the same place. So in the competitive play right now, they are dominating it, or being used fairly often. So going a little bit deeper as well. The reason I'm not talking about all the other warlords is stuff like Vulcan, stuff like Fail, stuff like what's the Titan one's name? Canis Vertex. All of them, they in the High Terra mainly because of the desperate defenses. Now this was the big change to the meta. No longer it costs 10 energy, it's now 8, cheaper, but no longer it pulls 2 big troops and gives them frontline, it only does 1. It's more in line with the Iron Hand's 8 energy Thunderhawk tactic, which pulls a random vehicle from your deck and gives it a flank. Instead of flank, this one is pulling a random troop and giving it frontline, makes it a bit more balanced and a bit more reasonable. Now, it also makes it a little bit weak as well, because the main caveat was you sort of soak up all the damage until turn 10, you play the desperate defenses, then you suddenly have 2 big troops that it's going to be fairly hard for your opponent to get through. With this 8 energy, it's still a good card. It's not a bad card, but it's no longer going to be a dominant playstyle, especially on the High Terra. So this pretty much kills the main meta play for the last few months. Moving up is the Crucial Choice. Now, this one went from being the literally worst card in the game to being, I think, one of the most versatile. By no means it's OP, but I think it's extremely useful, and you can put it to 99.9% of the decks in the game. Mainly because now it gives you choice of 3 cards, all legendary, and you get to choose one of them. Now, some of them might not suit your deck style, or they might be a bit rubbish ones, but because you have selection of 3, it's simply stunning, because you can pull an insane amount of combos. I already released a video about it. I'm planning to release another one as well, in terms of what sort of combos you can pull from this card and how fast you can finish the game, and it's just making the entire sort of high tier a little bit uncertain as well, because you mainly play against this enemy knowing what they can do, and suddenly a random faction, random warlord is dropping Vengeful Spirits to you. Bear in mind, Crucial Choice can also pull itself in the choice. So if you don't like the selection, just choose a Crucial Choice and re-roll it again for another 2 energy. I'm 100% sure that this card is going to get nerfed. And it's going to be a simple nerf. It's probably going to be, it gives you a random legendary card, which is quite good. For 2 energy, I think that's what should happen instead of selection of 3. Other than that, the Draskan Transport is a welcome change. It was a fairly useless card. Now it makes it a bit more useful. It gives you a last 5 section to your hand, and it's only going to cost 1 energy to play. So basically, you play it for 1 energy. It's a free troop and deals 1 damage. It's not going to be great for most of the decks, but if you are a new player, you don't have most of the cards, this might be quite interesting card. And moving on to the last change is the Rabbit City. I will show you this one in a bit as well. Now at 3 cost it was pretty rubbish card. I actually never seen someone using it. With 1 energy, I think it's quite decent. Now just to show the card as well while I'm talking. So the idea behind a card draw is, in terms of the value, when you draw a card, it should cost 1 energy. So 1 damage is equal to 1 energy. 1 heal is usually equals to 1 energy, and 1 draw card is usually equals to 1 energy. So 1 of anything is usually cost 1 energy. So what this is giving you, 1 energy draw card, which is fine, but then it also increases enemy unit abilities for 2 until your next turn. Now unit abilities, this also includes the warlord, because it's unit not troop. I think it's a good card now. It's not a bad card at all. For stuff against like Perturabo, this might be quite useful. For some of the Salamanders deck, this could be useful, and it's not a bad card. I've been playing around with it. The problem though, it's what to remove to include this card. It's an okay card. You draw a card, you increase the enemy unit abilities, but it's also a little bit useless against most decks. It's only for one turn. Most of the time, I will say 90% of the time, the opponent can forego using the unit abilities, or can afford to do so if it's necessary, because it's only 2 more. Unless it's like Perturabo or something, you're not really delaying much. I haven't tried this card against the Knights. I believe it will affect their plasma cost for their weapons, but I haven't tried it yet, so I cannot confirm. So that one might be quite good in that regard, but it's a little bit hit or miss. But a welcome change, it's much needed for this card. And in terms of the decks I mentioned earlier on as well, here's a Knight deck in terms of what you can do with it. Knights are fairly simple. Just put a couple of couple of weapons, and then put a little bit of healing and tons of plasma, and then just keep using your weapons until the opponent dies. Usually you'll finish the game quite early. No, you wouldn't even need the graviton cannon here, only or the corrupt usurpation. You don't even need most of the legendaries to go with it. They leave a bit of a high skill cap, and this shows with why their win rates are not present in the low Terra. But it's a little bit of a boring playstyle in my opinion, and they becoming a little bit too dominant at the moment. And as I mentioned as well, in terms of the Iota deck, now again, this is work in progress, and this was before the nerf as well, so this is probably not gonna work. Definitely not with the Mount Pharaohs, but I do like the card. I like to experiment with it from time to time, just so you can have an idea what to go for. That's it for today, guys. A little bit of a short video, mainly because, well, all the decks are ruined now, and we need to start creating everything from scratch up, except for the Knights, of course. Thank you for listening. Please consider liking the video and subscribing as well, as it helps a lot. I'm very close to being officially recognized as an official YouTuber for the game. And Emperor protects. Stay safe. Until next time.